Hello and welcome to the Pinstripe Post. My name is Ryan Sampson. He is Joel Sherman, the star of the show. Today is Sunday, September 29th. The New York Yankees finish their regular season with a record of 94 and 68 after beating the Pirates here tonight on Sunday. And we're here to talk about the postseason. The Yankees are the number one seed heading into the playoffs. Joel, before I get to anything else, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Ryan. We're getting to do this right as the Yankees season ended because I was supposed to be on a plane to Atlanta for the doubleheader tomorrow, but it's been delayed twice. So now I'm going early in the morning tomorrow, and hopefully I could, be early in the morning tomorrow, 2 games, and then if they win, it will be off to Milwaukee or San Diego, and if they lose back here, and whether it's Milwaukee or San Diego, my intention is to, at the end of that series, fly back and be in the Bronx for Game 1 Saturday night. Whether that's Baltimore or Kansas City, right?
That is the matchup that we are waiting to see. The Royals and Orioles will play in the wild card round. The Tigers and the Astros, the other AL wild card matchup. We're going to get into this, Joel. So, I'm going to say this, with them clinching the one seed, we've broken this team down so many times this year and discussed where are they at. Is it World Series or bust? And I think now that we are here at this moment and the postseason starts now for the New York Yankees, I'm going to say it, Joel. It's World Series or bust with this team. I understand the construction issue. We talked about that. The players, if they play baseball well, mentally, philosophically, everything about this team, right? As me as a fan, though, I have to go into mentality now. The way they finish this season, it's World Series or bust. It's time to conquer those demons. It's time to beat the Orioles if you have to face them, and then it's time to beat the Houston Astros in the ALCS if it ultimately comes down to that to get to the World Series. Anything less than that, Joel, I think it's a major disappointment considering everything that you've built forward this season. But for you, mentally, as you're approaching now with this playoffs and the Yankees being off this week, how are you viewing this team before heading into that game one?
Yeah, Ryan. I think every team has different pressure points. The Mets need to win a game on Monday, and if they get into the playoffs, this is a very successful season. In a year where they were trying to get their payroll back in order a little bit, and it was David Stern's first year trying to prove that he knows how to put a team together, and certainly like doing things like getting Severino and Mania on the, not for a lot of money, showed that he does know what he's doing. So, every team wants to win. The Mets aren't going to get in and go, well, that's enough. But, they could be in a situation after playing 18 innings on Monday and maybe having to fly to wherever they fly, Milwaukee or San Diego. That's going to be an extreme disadvantage to play the next round. No crying in baseball. You do what you have to do.
Right.
But that the act of getting in is a great accomplishment for this season for the Mets. If that were to happen, they got to win a game on Monday. I'm with you. The Yankees, I understand how random the postseason could be. I think it tends to be more random, like less random for the Yankees because they beat themselves so much in the playoffs. And I just want to say something about that is like we've spent a lot of this season where I say the Yankees aren't good at baseball. And we act like that's an either or. Like you could hit home runs and throw the ball hard, or you can play baseball well. For $300 million, you should really have it all. You shouldn't and not be in a situation where when some of the home runs are diffused, you don't have other ways to win the game, and you're not well thought out. You're not creating outs on the bases, and you're not stopping the other team from getting free 90 bases over and over again. The idea that it's an either or. If you ask me, would I rather have home runs or well-played baseball? I'd rather have home runs. It's easier to win. When the ball goes over the fence, it's at least an automatic one run. But there's no rule. You have to only have one of them. A lot of years when the Astros are been going to the ALCS and further, they're really good at both things,
Right.
And pitching. And so the Yankees shouldn't have to have just one of them. And it's the constant theme of the season. It seems like Garrett Cole's gotten his act together after the Devers debacle at the stadium a few weeks ago. Judge and Soto are healthy. Stanton is healthy. They are going to have two players finish in the top 5 for AL Rookie of the Year. They are relatively healthy, though I do think the Cortez injury, especially if they play the Orioles, is a significant one. But they're healthier than most, certainly more healthier than the Orioles are going to be for these playoffs if that's who they face. And so no excuses, no alibis, no random thing. I get, again, strange stuff happens in playoffs, short series. Got it. They got to get to the World Series at minimum, I think, or else this season is a failure. And I wonder if there's any implications for failure.
Yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to start there, Joel. And I'm glad you said it because I think you're in the same mindset for most Yankees fans. It is World Series or bust with this team. And you've pointed out a lot of the things that matter. You got healthy players, your best players are healthy. And yeah, there's always this talk of when it comes to the Yankees in the playoffs and they have these early exits, right? This team was hot and we were not. Our bats went cold, their bats got hot. Their pitching was better, our pitching was not as great. There's too much talent on this team for you to use that excuse this year. And I don't care. You stack the Yankees up against the Astros, you stack them up against the Orioles, the Royals, the Tigers. You're just a better team. You're a better built team than what all those other teams are. Now it comes down to every pitch, it comes down to every out, it comes down to every approach at a bat. Are you going to make dumb mistakes in critical key situations? That's what it's going to ultimately come down to. And that's where we're looking forward to seeing it play out in the Bronx. And like you said, the AL is going to run through the Bronx. And it's a matter of if you're going to step up to the plate. Joel, there's a lot of questions now about this team now heading into the roster and who makes the team, the 26-man roster for the playoffs. Are there big question marks for you, considering the Nestor Cortez injury, the Anthony Rizzo injury that just happened this weekend? We saw Ben Rice get called up. There's a lot of question marks, I feel like, in how they're going to put this final pieces together. We know the core, but how are the final pieces going to string together for this Yankee squad?
Yeah, I think that they got two bad breaks at the end. Rizzo isn't Rizzo of his prime, but he is so far better than every other first baseman defensively that they put out there. So that's a big deal for them. And I thought he was hitting the ball well without hitting for power, which at least turns the lineup over. You like part of the Yankee thing has to be you got to make sure you get to Judge Soto and Judge 5 times a game. Like it can't be 4; it's got to be 5. The other team has to retire those 2 guys 10 times if they want to win a game. If I were a Yankee fan, that's how I'd be thinking, which is those guys have to buy out 10 times in a game for them. Torres has hit very well late in the season. I would add him to it. So I do think the Rizzo injury is somewhat significant. I think the Cortez injury is somewhat significant because, again, we appreciate all the people who have joined the show over the course of the year. They know I'm a broken record. They know I like Cortez because he's fearless. And I believe there would have been a moment in like an Orioles series where he's brought in to go after Gunnar Henderson in a big spot. And will Tim Hill and Tim Mesa do that well? I don't know. Tim Hill seems to be I think actually both guys historically now and with the Yankees have shown they're not really afraid of the moment. I just think Cortez has better stuff than both of those guys, especially when he's out of the bullpen. Maybe that's how he got hurt, is he kind of loaded it up out of the bullpen.
Yeah, is that weird? Is that a weird one, Joel? Like the fact that they were messing with him going back to the bullpen, back as a starter. Does this feel like an injury that came because you're messing with this guy's routine?
Who knows? Like there's so many where the season's going to end with about 1,460 players playing in the major leagues this year. About well over 700 of them are pitchers. So probably close to 800 of them are pitchers. So guys get hurt all the time. We don't know the exact moments these things happen. But there's just no crying in baseball, right? Is like the Orioles are missing significant pieces in their pitching. The Mets played one start this year with Kodai Senga, right? Who was going to be their ace. He wasn't around for them all year. So what they have left is the best roster in the American League. I think where the Astros are now, it's close. And I do think their road to the AL championship is an interesting one because if the Orioles take care of business and beat the Royals, the one team in the Yankees won the AL East but had a losing record against the Orioles. It was the only team in the AL East they had a losing record against. And I think you can throw out the 6-1 record against the Astros this year. That was against a different Astro team, starting with literally the first series of the year before the Astros became the Astros again, which for the last 4 months of the season was probably the best team in the American League. They're going to face good starting pitching. They're going to face a really good lineup, and they're going to face a team that certainly is going to think that they could beat the Yankees because they have beaten the Yankees.
Right.
And so, you could imagine a gauntlet if it went like Orioles, Astros, Dodgers, or maybe it's Orioles and we're on an Aaron Boone watch because they didn't get past the Orioles, and we're asking tough questions about what happened here and if there needs to be significant changes. But broken record time. This is the only season you have Soto. You have no idea. We saw an injury to Cole this year. We saw an injury to Judge last year. And, those things could ruin a season.
Right.
They are healthy. Soto is healthy. Stanton is healthy. Torres is hitting. Schmidt is back. Hill is back. Wells established himself as a starting catcher. This is a team good enough. This team should win the AL championship.
No, I agree.
Should win the AL championship. The postseason is fickle. One bounce of the ball. And that's why I always go back to, I know the broken record of the analytics guys, which is whoever hits the most home runs in a series wins. But if you watch those games, there's going to be moments where a ball falls where it shouldn't. A guy doesn't alertly take an extra base, or the other team does. And 90 feet really matters in October. And the Yankees spent 6 months not being good at that side of it. And are they going to be more alert, more on point for 3 or 4 weeks in October? Because I don't think you could just homer as much as all my analytic friends like to believe you could just homer your way to a championship. And again, this is going to end up, I always want to be careful about this. You can't win without it. And if I could only have one or the other, I'd have it. But there's no reason a team with a $300 million payroll and a manager in his 7th year shouldn't have the team in a very sharp way in the playoffs, where they're not just conceding 90 feet at a time over and over on both sides of the ball.
No, I agree, Joel. We're on the same page there, but there are the key question marks about some of these positions and who's going to be starting and who's going to make the roster, because ultimately, who is going to be starting at first base on game 1 of ALDS? Is it going to be Ben Rice? Is it going to be matchup based? Are you going to put Oswaldo Cabrera there? And then the other question you have here is left field. What do you do with that? Is Verdugo, you saw him tonight. He had an okay last couple of games, but it's still, it's talking about one of the worst offensive left fielders in baseball versus the young phenom prospect that apparently forgot how to catch a fly ball in Jason Dominguez.
And how did that happen?
I don't know, Joel. We talked about this, and you said, and this is what I was thinking about when I was arguing this with Tommy, our great guy who does Hoganalytics. We were talking about Jason Dominguez, and I go, this guy was supposed to be one of your top prospects. I didn't hear anything about him being questionable or shaky in left field or in the outfield at all. I understand left field at Yankee Stadium is a beast in itself, and Brett Gardner made it look so easy. So I guess that's why us as Yankees fans took that for granted when a new player went into left field and struggled so much.
It was the curse of Babe Ruth, and then it was the curse of the Billy Goat. Do we have the curse of Brett Gardner, who wanted to come back for one more year? And it's going to turn out nobody could play left field for the Yankees ever again, and they're going to go 60 years without a championship. And we're, the 92-year-old Brett Gardner's finally going to come back to Yankee Stadium and lift the curse in 2061 or something like that. Me and you will be up to show 5,000. It'd be great.
It's a real question though. Do you play the bad defender, the one that, or not bad? I guess you call bad defender, or you call him a very questionable defender, something you have no idea what's going to happen in a big moment, but you trust his bats more than you would Alex Verdugo, right? So how do you do that? Or are you just using?
Here's the question I would ask after what you've seen for a few weeks, and I think it's a tough call. I know I think we talked about this on the show where I kept saying Yankee fans have imagined Jason Dominguez as the guy who had 4 home runs in 7 games last year, and I was like, he's not going to be that guy. It's like when Ben Rice hit the 3 homers in the game. Greatness is defined by consistency over a long period of time, and we haven't seen that from him. Have the at-bats been good enough now for 2 or 3 weeks where you think you're getting enough of an offensive upgrade where you would go ahead and put him on the field and risk the defensive side over Verdugo? I don't think this is a 90-10 decision or an 80-20 or even a 70-30. I think this is a 52-48 decision. And I just wonder if you think Verdugo will hit the if Dominguez. I don't believe Verdugo will hit the best pitching at the biggest time. Do I think Dominguez will? I don't know.
I don't. Yeah,
And
it's a giant
and
question mark both
and
ways.
if I have a big question about that, Ryan, shouldn't the answer to that question then be play the defense?
Right. You lock down defensively left field and you feel better, I guess, in that spot. And it is. I wonder how much they're going to play the matchup game too, considering if it's a good lefty they're facing or if it's a tough right. I just it's a great question. The feeling I'm getting is that they're going to play Verdugo just because he's the
That's what I
veteran.
would. And remember, we've seen where Boone has been indecisive on this kind of stuff before. It was the Houston series where three different guys started at shortstop, right? A couple of years ago, where Cabrera started, Peraza started, and IKF started. Maybe not all in the same series, but certainly in the same postseason, they all got starts because he couldn't decide who was the guy to go with. I would like to think that the manager of the team would make it. It's like a well thought out matchup based thing. I think Ty goes to the defense
That would make
because
sense.
the question is, what do you think in 4 at bats? Let's again, if this went perfect for the Yankees, Corbin Burns would have to throw a nice long game in game one of the series against Kansas City, and the series would go 3 games, and whoever they get. And they could miss Lugo and Cole Reagans for the beginning of the series at Yankee Stadium, but whatever combination of stuff that you're going to do, what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of pressure to win those first 2 games, right? Because let's act like even your dogs agree with me. It's if you don't, then you're looking at like say Burns coming back in 3, 4, or 5, like to maybe give them a lead, or Seth Lugo, who dominated the Yankees at the stadium recently, coming back. So there'll be a lot of pressure on them to win those games. And I would just wonder, for the guy who's likely to hit 8th or 9th in the lineup, I think they're going to go with defense.
I think that makes the most sense ultimately for the Yankees and how they're viewing this, especially with a Garrett Cole on the mound. I know he hates when defenders make dumb plays, and it's very frustrating for him because he's so exact with the way he pitches, and he tries to get guys to either fly out, ground out. Like he'll pitch to that sometimes in those situations, and I just don't want to see Jason Dominguez put in a bad spot in the Bronx, getting boos, and this first time the experience. He's still young. This is his first experience here, especially in the postseason, which is the most pressure packed moment. And let's not forget, Verdugo was part of a World Series team with the Red Sox. So, I mean, or he's been in the playoffs. He's been there before with the Red Sox. So
Yeah.
I do want to say with the first base position, right? So we're getting word here from Aaron Boone right now after this Yankees game that he doesn't expect Anthony Rizzo for the ALDS. It's a long shot for him at this point to play in the ALDS.
I mean, these are fractured fingers. Plural,
right? Exactly.
I mean, it would be hard for me to even imagine an ALCS, like grip a bat, take a hard throw, things like that. I just don't know how you get there.
So who do you see playing first base? Is it Oswaldo?
I think, again, it's going to be a tough call. Can you imagine that there will be a Yankee playoff series where rookies Austin Wells, Ben Rice, and Jason Dominguez are in the lineup? The Yankees. Now, maybe that's the good news. Maybe those guys will do it. Rice kind of got it back together at AAA after, being very bad for the Yankees for an extended period. But I think the gap between AAA and the major leagues has never been larger. And therefore, I'm not sure if that means a heck of a lot. So I don't see either. I think everyone's going to play because I think he'll be very aggressive with pinch hitting situations if it comes to it. But then the question will be, like, you sure the pinch hitter is better than Oswaldo Cabrera? Like, who is that? Is that Trent Grisham? Is it?
Does he make the roster, or do they go with another bullpen pitcher?
Well, you can still only do, like, what you're going to get back to where you can go with 13 pitchers. I almost wonder the question is, do you bring Duke Ellis up?
Yeah, you were saying that last week.
Do you feel like having the second high-end pinch runner along with Birdie does that do something? Like in a 5-game series where it's 1-2, day off, 3-4-5, do you need 13 pitchers? I don't know, because like I figure they'll take it because the feeling of getting to a point and that you're suddenly running out of pitchers would be probably so unnerving that I think they'll end up with taking 13. Who are those 13 without Cortez on the team?
And without Cousins, most likely too. I feel like
Right.
that injury kind
Yep.
of.
Yep. So, you know, it's like, think about it. One of the themes we were doing, was it last week's show or the week before, where we were talking about how healthy they were, and
It was
3 guys
last week.
got hurt. We cursed them. We essentially jumped on a Native American burial ground or something and damned them for talking like this. But again, I still think they're healthier than most. These are still secondary players as opposed to the frontline significant guys.
But let's not get this wrong. I mean, the first baseman's going to end up taking big at bats here in the postseason. I mean, he's
right, but he's there.
Can you get on base? That's ultimately what I'm worried about.
7th most important hitter. Like, everyone's missing somebody like this. You're lucky if that's all you're missing.
Right. I know. Tell me if I'm crazy, Joel, and I know I am. Anyway, but the postseason always reveals a player that you did not expect to count on as much, right? Like you say, the 7th or 8th man in the lineup. And it turns out those guys always end up coming up with the big hits, or they come up with the big moments that, like, wow, that really helped propel the team,
during
forward.
During the
postseason.
Less alike guys are going to get hits, and we just decide that's the narrative that we're going to follow. If the Yankees are counting too much on Benoit Rice or Oswaldo Cabrera, they'll be home by about October 10th.
Oh man! All right, fair enough. All right, Joel. The last thing I have for the first pitch here, and for the Yankees, do you think they are rooting or actively hoping to play one of these two teams? And if so, who would it be, the Royals or Orioles, that you think the Yankees would rather face?
I mean, nobody ever admits it, but you know the team as well as anybody, Ryan. They would rather play an inexperienced postseason team like Kansas City that doesn't have a lot of people who could put the ball out of the park at this time of the year. They'd have to try to find a way to maybe slow down a running game. The Royal pitching, you could argue, is better than the Baltimore pitching, especially the depth of the starting pitching. But again, in a postseason series at this point, you'll get Burns and Eflin, Suarez probably, and Kramer. Is that what it is? Grayson Rodriguez isn't going to make it back. So I would assume they'd rather face Kansas City. I think it's going to be very tough. Like what I said before, the Mets would have a successful season if they made the playoffs. The Royals have had a successful season. They lost 106 games last year, 105, 106 games last year. They did a great job in the offseason. We're talking about getting Sean Manaea and Luis Severino. How about getting Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo? How about trading Aroldis Chapman last year for Cole Reagans, who's turned out to be a top-flight starting pitcher? At the trade deadline, getting Lucas Erceg to be your closer, really big thing, and signing Bobby Witt to a defining contract. And watching him blossom into what would be an MVP in any pretty much any season if Aaron Judge wasn't around. It's very easy. Again, the Royals are going to want to win and try to win starting Tuesday night, but they could lose 10-0 to the Orioles, be done in 36 hours,
right.
And this has been a great season for them. The Orioles have to win that series. The Orioles have to take a step.
Yeah, I would agree.
From last year. And if they don't beat the Yankees, that's fine. That's just another step of where they're going. But on the ladder, the Orioles have to beat the Royals, and then the Yankees have to beat either the Orioles or the Royals.
And finally, for the starting rotation now with the Nestor Cortez injury, we talked a lot about this last week, how you would line up game 1, 2, and 3. We know that 1 is going to be Cole, 2 is most likely going to be Rodon, it sounds like, and then 3 would be either Luis Gil or Clark Schmidt. Now with the Nestor Cortez injury, it feels like, is that going to be the 4 starters? And does Marcus Stroman make this postseason roster with the Nestor Cortez injury?
I think he makes the postseason roster as a long reliever mop-up man.
Yeah.
I think if he's in the game, they're winning big, losing big. At this point, I think it feels like if you have Marcus Stroman, there's a warranty on how long in a season he's going to have his ace stuff. He's not a very big physical guy. He's getting older. And I think as you start getting 130, 140 innings into a season, I wonder about the durability. And I just think he's become very, very hittable. Look, he's always going to have the ball in play. This kind of pitcher he is. He's going to need a defense, but he was taking some of the nitro out of bats when the ball was hit earlier in the season in the way he's not now, which is, again, why if you needed length, Cortez was going to be a valuable guy. Do they think Cody Petit? This is going to be about Luke Weaver getting 6 outs regularly. There are going to be moments where the Yankee Stadium crowd groans because Clay Holmes is coming into some games.
Yep.
I wonder if they think that Mark Leiter has kind of made a little bounce back late in the season and will be part of this. Hamilton will be part of it. Tim Hill and Meza will be part of it. And then, when we start thinking about who pitchers 12 and 13 are, if you're using pitchers 12 and 13 in a 5-game series, something's gone very, very right or something's gone very, very wrong.
All right. That's how Joel writes it right there. We'll see how we're going to see those 12th and 13th pitchers in the Yankees roster there. Joel, let's move over to Do Up. We rank 3 things here, and the 3 things I wanted to ask you, and I feel like this is a question a lot of people are going to be asking themselves this week leading up into the ALDS for the Yanks. If you were to rank these 3 individuals, who is under the most pressure for this 2024 postseason?
Boone.
Aaron Boone.
Boone.
Aaron Judge. And the cleanup hitter, whoever it is. Because, and I say the cleanup hitter because, Joel, I am saying this now, and I know we're going to talk about this. The postseason is going to be different the way the pitchers approach Soto and Judge. They don't want to get beat by those guys. It's going to be the cleanup hitter that's beating us. All that pressure is going to be on that cleanup hitter in the postseason, and I can see it happening game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4, game 5, whatever it is. It's going to be on that cleanup hitter. So that's why I listed those three individuals for who's under the most pressure this 2024 playoffs.
Yeah, you probably have the 3. I think there's some pressure on Cole, legacy-wise. Like he's got really close with the Astros specifically one year in 19 and didn't win. I just think there's a large weight on Aaron Boone's shoulders. This was a team that was going to have to be managed before it lost its first baseman, before it lost 2 guys who were going to get a lot of innings out of the bullpen in Cousins, where maybe Cousins makes it back, but Cortez was going to be an important part of this. So he's going to have to decide who's playing first, who's playing left. He's going to decide who's hitting cleanup. He knows probably right now that Luke Weaver is at the end, but when does he pull that trigger? Like if does he get very aggressive if the top of a lineup is up in the 7th inning? And then does he say, I'm going to try to close with Clay Holmes or Tommy Kahnle or someone like that, Tim Hill? Who's starting game 2, 3, and 4? In what order? What is the rope for it? This is year 7 of Aaron Boone. And there's no AL championships there. They, in his time, got kind of close, I guess, in 19, losing 4 games to 2 to Houston, but that's as close. There's a sweep. His contract is up at the end of this year, and the Steinbrenner family loves Aaron Boone. Brian Cashman loves Aaron Boone. The people who play for him, and by the way, the people who cover the team have great affinity for Aaron Boone. He's a good man. But this is, again, I'm a broken record, right? This is a team that has not played well in traditional, technically well. And especially for a team that has the best record in the league. And when you're the worst base running team by far in the sport, the worst, not close, worst base running team by far, when you're willy-nilly about effort on certain defensive stuff, giving away 90 feet, historically, we say that is a reflection on the manager. And does he have the attention of his team? If this team likes Aaron Boone as much as it tells me it likes Aaron Boone, it's a pretty good idea to pay a lot of attention for the next 3 weeks and get this stuff right.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Aaron Boone is number 1. I
And the
guess
Judge legacy is
that's kind of
he's
where I
going
want
to
to ask you.
win.
Is it now him at number 2 that's under the most pressure?
Probably, he's
The
about to win
captain.
his second MVP, I would think. He's had 4 healthy seasons, and he's going to be MVP, MVP, MVP runner up, and fourth. So when he's healthy, he's great. He's great. He's arguably right there with Ohtani as the best player in the world. So, yeah.
The narrative's out there, Joel. I
And
can see
so
it.
he
It's
hasn't
gonna
played
it's gonna
well
be
in
there.
he hasn't played well in the postseason. He's hit about 200. He has struck it out. I think it's exactly 1 out of every 3 plate appearances. So, yeah, he has not had that moment that when they show the video at the end of a career, you go, "Oh, there was the postseason moment," or moments. It's like it's the thing about the dynasty Yankees. They have it, right? Like all those guys have the moments. And I'm not just talking about the core 4. I'm talking about Tino Martinez with a couple of big home runs and Paul O'Neill, and you go down the list.
These are
Judge,
career-defining moments for you in the
yeah,
postseason.
and the Yankees, and he more than anyone has taken up the Judge Steinbrenner mantle of championship or it was a bad season, and so the Yankees need him to be great
Yeah.
in October. He is a great player, and the Yankees need that not just to be April to September this time.
Yeah. And I think you raised a great point last week. Like Soto, there's not so much pressure on him. I mean, yes, he's going to be dependent on to provide production for the Yankees in the playoffs. But the cleanup hitter is why I highlighted the third thing, because again, I can't harp on this enough. I'm just waiting for that moment, Joel. In the bottom of the 7th, Soto gets a walk and Judge gets intentionally walked, and there's 2 outs, and it's the cleanup hitter. And it's like, yep, Austin
I think
Wells, come
I
on
think
up.
I think opposing teams are going to go after Judge a little more than you think, because I
Really?
think Judge has holes, and that when you exploit Judge's holes a little bit, I think they think you also get into Judge's head a little bit. And I think that to begin a series, teams are going to be like, let's go after him. Let's see what it looks like. And if he starts hurting them, I think then your cleanup thing will really be a factor. But look, the cleanup thing is going to be a factor. Soto and Judge get on base over 40% of the time.
Exactly.
Like, now, will that be true in the postseason? I don't know. But it will be hard for me to believe, for as long as the Yankees are around, that there aren't going to be huge at-bats that find Austin Wells and Giancarlo Stanton in whatever way you flip that. And I wonder, does the week off now help Austin Wells a little bit, who really caught a lot down the stretch? Or is maybe he's a little bit shot from doing it? It's a long season. He's never probably played this much baseball. And here we are. But he's going to get the opportunity. It's interesting. A lot of this postseason, Ryan, is going to be like homegrown Yankees. And how do they do? Austin Wells, Volpe, who we haven't even mentioned on this show yet, Dominguez, Hill, Schmidt. These are guys, the bullpen guys they fixed along the way, notably Weaver, which they're very good at. The second layer of players on their team a lot of them are homegrown and by the way, of course, Judge is homegrown also, but that's going to be that. And look, this is a referendum time of the year. The Yankees lose game 1 of a DS. We're going to have a referendum moment on Carlos Rodon. It's just the way it is. It's the way it is. Ryan, I think a lot of this, as is stupid. It's about one night in your life, but we as a sports society have put everything on the postseason. The sports themselves, in their greed, and I don't even know if I say that pejorative, everyone is trying to make money, have made regular seasons relatively meaningless. Like when a regular season starts, the likelihood that the Dodgers and Yankees, by the way, the Dodgers got Ohtani, the Yankees got Soto. Those were the 2 teams that ended up with the best records in the league, right? Like when the season starts, both teams have about a 90% chance of making the playoffs. So we kind of know that. You got to go through it. It's nice that they give us narratives all season so you and I could have jobs.
Yes.
But the reality is, at some point you got to,
right.
Like it's just a crapshoot for so many years. At some point, the crapshoot has to fall your way.
I agree, and
And
that's more to the narrative here, right? So we're painting the full picture here, right, Joel? We're painting that full picture with the Yankees and heading into the postseason here this year. This is a team that missed the playoffs last year. I know you pointed out the injuries, but that doesn't happen much for the Yankees organization. So
I
that's
mean,
why the added
it's
pressure
like
is there even
what?
more.
Have they missed it? I think 6 times in 30 years, 5 times in 30 years, something like that. So, there was a time, in a way, the worst thing that happened to them was they won 3 in a row and 4 out of 5. And then they went to, the World Series in '01 and '03 and didn't win. So it felt like uh, that it was understood the Yankees would make World Series and win World Series like Joe DiMaggio was still around, and you only had to win one round. It is tough. I always point out the Dodgers are the West Coast doppelganger to the Yankees. They are up at a $300 million payroll. They do stars. They've won one championship since 1988 in a 60-game season. And I think they're incredibly smart, well run. Look at them. They won the West again. They got the best record in the league. Look at all that Ohtani did. And, like next week, if they lost in the first round again, you'd go, I guess so. This is what happens in the postseason. And I've been out West when the Dodgers have been eliminated. It's treated not quite like New York because New York has a little more intensity, but like the Dodgers and the Lakers are the teams of Los Angeles.
Right.
And when the Dodgers, I mean, they are really treated like idiots when they lose. Also, like, oh, nobody here knows what they're doing. They've over analyticsed everything. Look at these guys. They stuck with Kershaw too long again. So, anyway, I got off track there a little bit. But those two teams, by the way, what would MLB pay to have those two to have Ohtani versus Judge the last week in October? Right?
There's a lot of descriptions I could say right now about the MLB if that happened. How they would feel about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are the three people under the most pressure this postseason. Like
And
you said,
I would put Cole at like a 3A with the
3A.
Fair
enough.
hitter. Like he can't blow up in like game one of the DS.
No.
Like especially the way the DS is set up to give a great advantage to the team that has the best record and is getting a bye is he's not going to face Corbin Burns or Seth Lugo. He's going to face the number 4 starter on the opposing team. And he once told me something very interesting. His college coach at UCLA, like I was asking him about like the value of wins. Like we've taken wins away as an important stat. And I was trying to make an argument that, well, I wouldn't downplay it too much because if a pitcher gets a win, it means the team won, which is kind of the goal here. My analytic friends is like that the team wins the game. And it means you pitched at least 5 innings and you usually pitch pretty well if you get a win. And his thing was his college coach told him, outlast and outpitch the other guy. Like that's the win. And often if you outlast and outpitch the other guy, you win and your team wins. And so when Garrett Cole pitches, he needs to have CC Sabathia's 2009 postseason, where CC was persistently outlasting and outpitching the other team's guy. Twice did it on 3 days rest, if I remember, in '09, as I think Andy Pettit did also. And like they need Sabathia and Rodon to some degree be those two guys. Though, again, I guess Rodon in this analogy, because I always say it, is the left-handed Burnett.
That's
so
right.
Maybe he's AJ Burnett, and he wins 2 huge games this postseason, and he cements a little bit of legacy no matter what happens as well. But I actually think it's like Cole is no less than the cleanup hitters for he's got to have a big postseason. Because there's just how many more prime years when you've seen him have just a tremendous injury this year for the first time that cost him 2.5 months of the regular season. You're blessed if you get to this point and you're standing upright and pitching your best. He's standing upright and pitching his best. He's got to be a dominant force in this postseason.
Ultimately, do you see with the way they built the off days in the schedule for the ALDS, is Cole pitching game 1 and game 4 no matter what?
1 and 4. You've got to tell me if they're up 2-1 or down 2-1. I think if they're up 2-1, they would save them for 5. And then also if they won 4, they then have them game 1 of the ALCS.
Right.
I think they'd play a little bit of strategy with it. You know what happens when your season's on the line, you shorten your roster more and more. Which is why when you asked me before about the 12th and 13th guys, you got to bring them. But if you're using your 12th or 13th guy, you're probably winning 10-1 or losing 10-1. And that's why they're in the game. And this is shorten your bench time. This is your best players have to shine. And I can't stress it enough. It sounds so silly, right? Is like your best players have to shine. The other players on the team have to make sure Soto and Judge bat 5 times a game.
Right. Get on base.
They got that 5 times a
Get
game.
on base.
The other team has to be forced to face them 10 times every game.
Oh, man, I can't wait. All right.
And
Joel,
I'd be thinking the same way, right? Like if I'm the Dodgers, I got to make sure Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman bat 10 times a game. I'm sorry, twice each a game. And that's 15 plate appearances for those 3 guys. That's how you think about it. So anyway.
No, I agree, Joel. I agree. Another guy that's going to face a lot of pressure this year, but he always seems to have, not always, but majority of the time, especially with the Yankees, Giancarlo Stanton performed very well in the playoffs. Looking forward to see how he comes into this postseason. I think he has the right mindset. And I was really, I want to go to off the plate. And again, this is what Giancarlo Stanton said after the Yankees clinched the AL East and beat the Orioles in Game 3 of that series. Giancarlo Stanton, when asked if he thinks the Yankees are the team to beat in the playoffs, he said, quote, "We better be. That's the point." I'm impressed with him, Joel.
He's
Giancarlo,
a teller, including about himself all the years here. He's not, he's not been the guy I think they thought they were trading for, but he falls into that category, that Nestor Cortez category. I know he's not afraid to take a big at bat. He might fail because, he's stiff, and if the pitcher could throw really hard with some wrinkle, probably figure a way to, Stanton's got a lot of holes, but you miss the hole. He has shown at this time of year, he'll do a lot of damage, and he is Giancarlo Stanton. The pitcher is going to understand the implications of walking Judge or Soto if he's standing there, and he's been really great at this time of year. And he certainly, we could make a case that he has not fulfilled his mandate games 1 to 162 as a Yankee, but he's done pretty darn good when you're supposed to be judged as a Yankee, no pun intended on Judge. He's been really good in the postseason. And,
he really has.
And broken record time again. It just, for me, it always starts with who's up for the contest. Like, we all understand full crowd. We know what the noise at Yankee Stadium starts to become if they're losing 4-2 in the 6th, and it's a lot of strikeouts, and there's the booted ball, and you've got to be able to overcome it. You got to be able to overcome it. I think part of this season is like I don't think Alex Verdugo is good at overcoming stuff like that. I think that things get in him. And by the way, most humans, things would get in. That's not an easy thing to wall off. I have real empathy and sympathy for trying to survive it. But these are once you're the gladiator and you're in against the lion, it's you or the lion. And it's not a fair thing, but you got to figure out a way. And these are the rules we've established. They're the Yankees. And it's very randomized, but it's time that the randomized fell on their side.
Yep. Giancarlo looks like a guy who can actually take on a lion one-on-one. I'm just going to say that right now, the way he's built.
If there's a Gladiator 7, I'm sure he'll have involvement.
I was going to say Gladiator 2 is coming out in November. I can't wait to see that, Joel.
I went to 7 because I assume he has a couple more years of baseball to play. Though I think Travis Kelce's and everything and playing tight end. So
that's right. And Travis Kelce gave me the new Happy Gilmore as well. All right. Let's move on to Hoganalytics. Let's bring in our guy, Tommy Hogan, to give us some stats to react to. What's up, Tommy?
What's up, guys? Before I get into it, just a quick observation that I had this week, Joel. I was interested in what you thought about it. The Yankees still had something to play for in this last series against Pittsburgh. They needed one more win to have the top seed in the AL. And Houston went into Cleveland with nothing to play for. And the Yankees banked on that Houston team to beat Cleveland twice in order to get that 1 seed. I wonder, was that kind of a window into the mentality and mindset of those two franchises that we've seen the last now 7 years?
No.
Okay. All right. That was just my
I don't think the Yankees were sitting around saying, I bet you Houston will do our business for us. I think these are the Yankees.
Okay.
Like, we've seen they're good enough to have the best record in the American League. On the other hand, they acquired Juan Soto from San Diego and finished one game better than the Padres. That's, it's like they literally, like they won today and San Diego lost. If we flip the things on day 162 of the season, if those two teams play in the World Series, though San Diego is the wild card, San Diego would have had the home field advantage, though they traded Juan Soto to the Yankees. And so the Yankees had the most successful, unsuccessful season kind of like for number one seed. There was a lot to like. There's a lot of star power, but they really do win with that star power. And hey man, you could convince me 4 weeks from now we're doing the commemorative show about, wow, they're going to the Canyon of Heroes, and you could convince me we're about 10 days away from doing the wow, all that stuff we talked about all year, it really came to roost, and they're out of the playoffs already. I don't think they're going in as a dominant number one seed. They're going in as a team that I expect to beat the AL Central teams, because that's what they always do, and we're going to find out about them against Baltimore and Houston and a National League team.
To get into Hoganalytics, because Yankee fans are going to be interested to see who goes along here in Orioles, Royals, and they want to know who to root for. So I broke it down. I wanted to see what are the better matchups for the Yankees in terms of hitting, because that you say, Joel, that they don't play baseball well enough in October. Well, the bats have also gone quiet in October. That's also been a big reason why they haven't moved along here. So to break down how the 11 guys, they have a decision at left field, they have a decision at first base. So the 11 guys that I think we'll see in a starting lineup, I broke it down against the four starters in Kansas City, the four starters in Baltimore. Brady Singer will be the fourth starter. He might start game one. He might start a little bit later on in the series. Yankees at 324 off of him, those 11 guys. Cole Reagans, 105. Small sample size, 2 for 19. Lugo, 198. And Waka, 135. So against
those, just this year, or is that career?
That is career. That is career. So against Orioles starters, the Yankees hit 208 in their career, the 11 players that we should see in a starting lineup. To go to the Orioles, they hit 190 against Cade Povich. You mentioned Suarez, Joel. I think Povich will actually be the fourth starter.
But they'll start a lefty?
A lefty. He's also done really well down the stretch. Suarez hasn't made a start in a week now. So I think the tea leaves say Povich, 190 against him, 4 for 21. Burns, 10 for 61, 164. Eflin, a pretty big sample size, 158 at-bats, 247. Kramer, another decent sample size, 120 at-bats, 258. So against Orioles starters, they hit 233, 25 points higher than the Royals. So, bigger sample size.
Yeah, whatever the sample size is, if they're losing to Cade Povich and Zach and Dean Kramer in the postseason, again,
you're right.
And look, the averages are traditionally low in the postseason because we have eliminated the White Sox and the Marlins and the Rockies, who everybody gets fat against, and then even on the good teams, we've eliminated the bad pitchers. We're down to the short roster of who you're actually using at this time of year. I'd be curious, what their numbers are against Cole and Rodon and Luke Weaver and things like that. What's the value of their numbers against Luke Weaver? There's a completely different Luke Weaver than whatever his career was. But whatever the history is, they're the number one seed.
Yeah.
and look, we've been super critical of them for 6 months on this show and in the Post and in most forums for a team that has the best record in the American League. Everyone else in the American League must be doing something worse because they all have a worse record than the Yankees. But to have watched the Yankees this year is to know that they have a real Achilles heel, and we'll see if it plays.
Well, we talked about how we think we want to, as Yankee fans, root for the Royals. That seems like the easier matchup. Little interesting that the Yankees hit better.
I'm going to root for the better story. I don't give a
I get it. As Yankees fans, I'm saying.
As somebody who is going to cover the Yankees, I'm starting on the Mets, but once the division series starts, I'll move back to the Yankees. If they go through this, I'd like it to be the Orioles, the Astros, and the Dodgers if they're going to go through it, because those would be the best stories. And I'm I'm interested in stories.
And I'll also say the Yankees hit well against these two bullpens. Like Yanier Cano comes to mind for me. The Yankees have his number. He's great against everybody else, but the Yankees have hit Cano a lot.
They have to worry about the Orioles not to release Kimbrel. That would have been good for the Yankees.
I know, right? That would have been nice. But they knew to move on a couple weeks before the season. And if I remember correctly, I know they got dominated by Lugo, but they hit well against that bullpen the last time at Yankee Stadium a few weeks ago against the Royals too. So I didn't get into the bullpen numbers, but I think the Yankees bullpen numbers against those two teams are pretty good.
Yeah. It's whatever comes in front of them, they're going to be the favorites and expected to win.
Absolutely.
You got to figure a way. The Yankees dynasty starts with them figuring out how to win 3 games, like where it's Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz. Though actually game 4 was the other guy, Nagel, that they won the first game. But they win game 5 against Smoltz, giving up one unearned run, and they beat Maddox to win a World Series. And along the way, I've seen them beat Pedro in big games, and like all the big, like when you're a champion, you figure a way out. And these are going to be, as the playoffs go on, as you know, these will be beat up versions of the pitching staffs also. Like you're not going to get everybody's best. And the Yankees, by the way, have good pitching. So the other teams are going to have to figure out some stuff also, and the Yankees are going to have to figure out how to catch it when it gets hit at them.
Why is there an off day, Joel, between game 1 and game 2 in the ALDS at home?
You always, if you never have an answer, especially when it comes to Major League Baseball, assume that there's a check involved.
Got it. All right. Makes sense. I guess.
And they have to weave. There's a lot of games to weave in there. And remember, when the Yankees won the World Series in 2009, I don't think they win it without the weird schedule, because they never had to start a 4th starter in that postseason. There was a weird one in the ALCS where there were consecutive days off for some reason, and it allowed them to pitch just 3 guys, Sabathia, Burnett, and Pettit, and survive. So maybe that's an omen for them also that we have that they have a weird schedule again.
Tommy, we thank you as always, brother.
No problem.
Maybe they don't want the Yankees going up against the NFL on Sunday, and it will be an embarrassing rating, right?
That's also a good point, Joel. That's a very good point. All right, Joel, let's bring this all home. Joel's notebook time. I wanted to open this up to you a little bit. What does this mean for you at this time of year for the playoffs as they're about to start covering baseball? I know you've done this for so long, but for you...
That's such a nice way of saying I'm old.
No. You've done it so well, though, too. And for you, though, what does this mean for you this time of year in baseball playoffs?
Yeah, on one hand, I really do try to talk, if they want to listen to young reporters, if they ask me about, you should care as much on June 7th as you care on October 7th. Like somebody's buying, the paper costs the same. And so if you're saying, well, I'm saving it for the postseason, you're really not doing the job. You're supposed to do the job. Conversely, you also understand that more eyeballs are coming. And it's a pretty good idea to be good this time of year and be on top of it and understand what the major storylines are and what the major questions that have to be asked are. And to be in position to do that, it's all tougher. Games generally start a little later, last a little longer. Deadline comes up quicker because of that. You can only do what time allows you to do. And there's a lot more humans covering these series, so it's harder to maybe get to the guy you want to get to ask the questions you want to ask. But that's all bullshit, right? That's all the excuse making for why you struck out with the bases loaded. You've got to figure out how to do it and do it well. People who read you are expecting that, and so that's what you got to do. And logistics get complicated. I was in Atlanta for that Mets series where the 2 games were knocked out. I just came home. I'm going. I got a 4 a.m. Alarm clock tomorrow morning to get back to Atlanta if the Mets win. I'm off to Milwaukee or San Diego. When that series ends, I'm back to the Bronx, and then I'll probably be on the Yankees until they're eliminated. And if they're eliminated and the Mets are still going, I'll probably jump over to the Mets. John Heyman and I will split it. John's going to be with the Mets. I'm going to be with the Yankees until either team is done. And yeah, it's these games. It's not that I don't remember a game in June or July, but I really do. Like, I could tell you where I was sitting, who I was talking to when Alfonso Soriano's ball's coming towards me in Game 7 because we're in the left field auxiliary press box. I could tell you what the stadium sounded like when Don Mattingly hit a home run in the 95 postseason. I could tell you that I was staring at George Steinbrenner melt down when Brocious homered in Game 5 because he was ready to kill his team and he almost didn't know what to do because he wanted to be angry, but it was a joyous moment. And actually, I was writing a column about watching him watch the game. So this time of year, I remember that feeling of seeing Jeter out of the corner of my eye, running across the infield on the flip play, thinking, where the hell is he going? And seeing it happen in real time. For some reason, I always gravitated to Jeter because he was Jeter. I saw him running across the infield, and it seemed crazy. And then all of a sudden, he was running a quarterback option flip play to Posada. So, yeah, you tend to, remember these, and not just the Yankee ones. It's watching Lucas Duda throw away the ball with Hosmer. And, being there, being there and all these great plays by Altuve over the last 5 years in the postseason, or seeing Brad Lidge dominate a postseason. Yeah, it's great. My dad was a truck driver for 47 years. I feel blessed that every year the playing portion of a season culminates with me watching a champion kind of rise from all this. It's always fascinating and fun and complicated, and it's important to ignore the complications and try to do a good job. That was really too much.
No, I think you summed it up, and that you thank you for sharing that. I think that's puts puts it in perspective as we're going through this postseason of how much you do for us, and we're looking forward to covering it all. We're looking forward to seeing your coverage. We're looking forward to talking more about this Yankee squad as the chase for 28 is officially on now.
So by the time we talk again, if we stick with Monday we might do some stuff, right?
We might do some stuff. We might try and sneak some in,
But so there's a game Saturday and Monday, right? So when we next do a show, they will not be either advanced or eliminated yet.
Correct. We'll be in the thick of things.
But we'll have a lot more information.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. We'll have more to react to, more to talk about, more to break down.
Well, and I actually think this round's going to be interesting also. I mean, look, we don't even know what this round is. Like I said, I'm on a plane to Atlanta tomorrow morning. And I think the Mets are facing I understand this is the Pinstripe Post and all the Yankee fans are turning it off now, but because they think the other 29 teams are props.
Or the other 29 minutes, right, Joel?
Yeah. 29 minutes, yes. We're going to do inside jokes the rest of the way. And but I think the Mets have a fascinating 9 to 18 innings tomorrow afternoon. That's going to end in either champagne or just pain. You can't spell champagne without pain, and they're going to have one or the other tomorrow. And and that's when you ask me about this time of year, I'm going to remember forever what that clubhouse looks like at the end, because it's either going to be euphoria or heartbreak. And this time of season brings that out. And the first one that really matters in New York, I'll be at tomorrow. It's the playoffs before the playoffs.
And we're looking forward to seeing it all, Joel. Thank you so much, as always, for talking Yankees baseball with us. And we'll talk to you next time, man.
By the way, before some asshole does it, I understand that champagne doesn't actually end with P-A-I-N. It's not spelled that way, but it sounds like pain. Okay, so the mean tweets and X's or whatever they're called, or emails, you could keep them. I actually know how to spell champagne.
You heard it there. Heard it there from Joel. Thank you so much, man.